Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bryan Cooper Show. I am your host and excited to spend some more time with you today going over The Strangest Secret in the World, that old recording from Earl Nightingale, which is absolutely brilliant. Millions of people have listened to this, and it is life changing. It was one of the things that just stopped me in my tracks one day. I was so curious, so interested, so desperate, I guess you could say, to find answers to what I was looking for, which was to change. I didn't like where I was. I didn't like what was going on in my life. I just needed some sort of hope, some sort of information. I was looking for ways to change. With my current program in my mind, I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know how to change. But sometimes, if we are at least intentional enough to look for the answers, I think we'll find them. Whatever we're seeking, we're going to find. And I was at least in the place where I was looking for answers, and I came across this recording that so many people have listened to, and it is life changing. And he discusses the idea that we become what we think about. And it's so true. Whatever thoughts that we're putting out there on a consistent basis really comes from whatever's going on inside, and whatever's going on inside is projecting out there. And so we get the reality of whatever's going on subconsciously in our mind. And if we don't like what that is, if we're struggling in any area of our life and we want to just improve, which I hope we all want to improve, that's the whole goal. We should never want to stand still and accept our life just the way that it is. It's all about growth. Everything's about creating, it's about building, it's about growing, it's about becoming the better version of ourselves, which is why I love the personal development world and why I've gotten into it, because I love how my life is transformed as a result of changing my mindset. And I'm excited to continue the process. Like, I never want to stop, always want to keep growing. And I hope you're that way too. But maybe you've had success in your life, but you want to change some things up, maybe do something new, or had areas of success in one area of your life, and then another area, it's not going so well. So how could I improve that? For me, I've always wanted to be a really good dad. I've always wanted to be a really good husband. And years ago, I was in a place where mentally I wasn't the best husband I could be. I wasn't the best father I could be. And I wanted to change. I just wanted to get better. But I want to talk to you about another piece in The Strangest Secret that is a really good analogy, a good way to wrap our head around this information and give us a little bit more understanding of what's going on in the mind and how it works. So further into this recording, he talks about our mind being like land, like fertile soil. You have a farmer that has this plot of land. The plot of land, it's our mind. Okay. It's really good soil. You can plant anything in there, and whatever you plant, it will return to you in abundance. But the problem with it is we could plant poison. We could plant nightshade, which is deadly, or we could plant corn or fruits or vegetables. It really doesn't matter. You could plant whatever in the soil and it will return to you. You'll reap a harvest at the end of the season of whatever you planted. And just like nightshade or corn, you could plant negativity, negative thoughts, or you could plant powerful positive thoughts, and the effects of that, the harvest that we reap from planting either negative or positive, comes back to us in great abundance, because our mind is like this fertile soil. And so as we go through life, if there's certain areas that we just don't like, maybe it's time to take a look at, what am I actually planting on a daily basis? What have I put in the soil, and what am I reaping the harvest of? I knew that for me, like, I was struggling in a lot of different areas, and taking a moment to look at my life through a lens of, I guess you could say, responsibility, just saying, okay, I've gotten myself here. How do I get myself out of it? And taking time to just write down, what are my thoughts about my day? What are my thoughts about life? What are my thoughts about my family, my marriage, all the different things? And when we take time to journal and to write down our thought process, we get a glimpse, at least, into what's going on internally. And sometimes it could shock you. It kind of shocked me. I knew that I had a lot to work on. And after hearing this recording, I realized, man, I've just been planting negativity, and I'm reaping the harvest of negativity, and it's not working. And I remember one time, it was interesting. My wife, she started working in this new business, and she was doing really well. And she started listening to people that had just really good mindset, super successful in the areas that she wanted to be successful. So it started to change just how she thought. And they were talking about how gratitude's important and just getting up, being grateful for your business and so many different things. So she was working on this. I was not. And we seemed to be drifting apart, just further and further apart. And one time we just sat down in the evening and she came to me and she's like, I feel like there's this wall in between us. And I don't know what it is, but anyway, I just want you to know I just don't feel that as connected to you. And I don't know what to do about it. And we kind of just went on our way. And it really hit me hard because I wanted to be a good husband. And here she's saying there's this wall in between us. And I went total negative, like worst case scenario, like, does she want to leave me? Is there, I don't know. Like I just went worst case scenario because I was in a negative thought process. I wasn't practicing gratitude. And I came across Bob Proctor, and he was talking about how if you want to change anything in your life, if you have a negative situation, one of the best things that you can do, and it is practice gratitude. You got to be grateful for what you want in order to change the situation. So if you don't like your marriage, thinking about how bad it is and how things aren't working is not going to give it anything other than a negative seed that we planted in, and then we reap the harvest of more of that negativity. Whatever we give energy to grows. Our thoughts are energy. So if we're thinking negative and we're stuck in this negative cycle about whether it is our relationship or it's our work or it's our kids or whatever circumstance in life, this can apply to anything. We're going to reap the harvest from that. Well, I was reaping the harvest from my negative thoughts. Bob was saying, hey, you need to change this and start thinking of all the things that you're grateful for. So I said, okay, I'll do it. So I wrote down that I was grateful for my wife. And he said, just think about it in the way that you're excited about your life together. And also, just picture yourself having great conversations. And for me, because she came to me and she said, I feel like there's a wall, I visualized her coming to me and saying, I feel like that wall is broken down. Like you tore it down and, it's no longer there. So with gratitude and visualization, I did this practice over and over again. And something does switch inside us when we start thinking about gratitude and what we're grateful for in a situation. And after about 6 weeks, I just was like, I feel different. And one night she came to me, she's like, I don't know what's different, but I feel like that wall is gone. And that was just from practicing gratitude. And I visualized her saying that. I never asked her to say it. I just put it in my mind that that is what was going to happen. And I realized in that moment the power of gratitude and the power of our mind. Our mind is fertile soil, and whatever we plant, we will reap a harvest from. So we need to really value what we have. And he brings up another really good point. He said that things that we get for free, we tend to take for granted. Familiarity breeds contempt. When we are just given something, sometimes we don't place much value on it, so we don't use it the way that we should. And he said that our mind comes to us freely and we don't really understand its power. We don't value it, so we don't use it to our benefit. And we just allow our outward circumstances to kind of control what our circumstances are. So wherever environment that you place yourself in, we just accept it as that's the way to think and be and act and all the things. And so we pretty much succumb to what our outward surrounding says is acceptable. But there's a lot of things that people do that don't get them the success. And if we mimic that, we're just planting the same seeds that they're planting and we're all reaping the same harvest and we're not becoming very successful. Again, in the first episode, he talks about how only 5 out of 100 people tend to be successful nowadays. This was back in the early 60s or late 50s, and it hasn't changed. We're all still struggling very similarly, and those percentage points haven't changed, even though we have more potential than we ever had before in history. Especially with age of technology, we can achieve massive success. We have access to so much information out there that if we just use it and apply it, then we can make changes. But if we don't value what we have mentally, then we're probably not going to put a lot of emphasis on it. We're not going to really trust the process of, I need to put in time to change my mind. And if I do that, this is the effects. A really cool story that I came across was there was a father that wanted to teach his son how to value something, value money, and create a work ethic. And I thought it was a really good story when we're talking about how we need to value our mind. And so we will use it more constructively. And sometimes that when we work on something, we tend to value it. When we have to work for it, we just all of a sudden create a whole different mental atmosphere about what it is that we are bringing into our life. And so in this case, the father said to the son, I want you to go and earn $5 tomorrow. The son was like, I'm only 10 years old. How am I going to earn $5? So the next day, dad goes to work. The kid's thinking about it. How am I going to earn $5? He goes to his mom. Mom, I don't, I'm going to have to go out in the streets and I don't know where to get $5. Nobody's going to hire a 10-year-old kid. She's like, oh, honey, don't worry about that. I don't want you to go on the street. And here's $5 and, call it a day. So that evening, dad comes home, talks to his son. Hey, son, did you earn your $5? He's like, yeah, I got the $5. So the son gives him the $5 and shows him. Dad grabs the money, throws it into the fire. And the kid's like, oh, what are you doing? And the mom rushes in. What are you doing? He said, son, I said, I want you to go out there and earn $5. And you just got it from your mom. And that's not going to teach you anything. So he said, tomorrow, I want you to go out and I want you to earn $5. And so the next morning he gets up, he's thinking about how I got to earn this $5 today. He knows he can't go to his mom because his mom's not going to give it to him, knowing that it's just going to get thrown in the fire. And so he goes out of the house, he goes to his neighbor, he goes to his aunts, uncles, grandparents, and they all give him $1. So he comes back, same thing in the evening. His dad says, did you earn the $5? And the kid gave him the 5 singles. Again, the dad throws it into the fire. And the kid's frustrated, like, what? He's like, why did you do that for? He's like, because I know that you didn't earn it. He said, tomorrow, I want you to go earn $5. So the kid, he's like, I can't get it from people. I can't just ask for it. So he goes out, knocks on a few doors, and finally finds somebody that will give him a little bit of work. He's like, I'm desperate. I just need to earn some money. Can you please help me? I will work for it. And this gentleman says, hey, I've got a pile of bricks that need to be moved and I'll pay you a penny a brick. And so that kid worked for hours and hours. He came home late that night and his dad asked him, hey, son, did you earn $5? And he's like, no, but I did earn $1.80. And so the dad takes the money, throws it in the fire, and the kid immediately reaches in and tries to pull the fire or the money from the fire. His dad pulls him into him, gives him a hug, and he says, I am so proud of you. He's like, today you became a man. He said, because you valued the work that you put into it. You weren't just going to let that go. You weren't just going to spend it on anything. And it taught him a valuable lesson to go out there and actually, regardless if he achieved the goal or not, but that he was going to put in the effort. He valued the money because there was effort behind it. We would value our mind more if we start working on putting effort behind training it to do what we want to do, start planting powerful, positive ideas. We can change our circumstances, but it comes with changing our thinking. Again, we become what we think about most of the time. So that means that we should really consider changing our thought process. If we're not happy with the area of our life, it means that we're probably just planting negative seeds. So we just have to change that. And what is one of the best ways to start changing the mind? You talk about neuroplasticity. That's actually will change how the brain functions and works. And it's getting your brain used to new and powerful information that is positive. And that forms this new neural pathways, neuroplasticity that allows us to create something new. And we start to see the world for what it can be, not for what it's not. Because the thing that's with negativity is we tend to look at it and look at the world through this negative cycle, this negative lens, and it doesn't really help us see the world for what it is. It makes us see the world for what it's not. And how can we ever change anything if we're just looking at it through the way that we think that it's not? Because then we're just producing the same negative thought process over and over again, and our world stays the same. To change our mind, we have to change our thoughts. So one of the best things that we can do is daily start practicing gratitude, being grateful for what we have. So say, for instance, you want to have, for me, I want to have a better marriage. I didn't like this rift between us, this wall. The only way to tear it down was to change my thinking, to start thinking gratitude. And when I thought gratitude over and over again, and I was consistent with it, I would say it out loud. I would say it in my head. I'm so grateful for my wife, and I'm grateful that the wall is gone, and tried to think. And it was a fight to go back and forth, because then I wanted to think of the negative things and how things weren't working out, and all the reasons. But then I had to stop myself, and it was like this battle going back and forth between the negative thoughts and the positive thoughts. But positive thoughts are more powerful than negative, and it did win out. And I was so grateful to see the effects of just putting in this gratitude and changing it. So, using gratitude, being grateful for what you want to be better, as if it's already here, already in the present moment. Gratitude is not something that we chase. It is something that we just accept, and something that we get excited about, something that we utilize to benefit us. And then the next thing is just think best case scenario. If we got up every morning and said, you know what, not sure how I'm going to get through the day, but you know what, at the end of the day, I am going to knock out all the things that's on my list. It's going to be great. Things are going to work out on my behalf. And you know what, I'm just committed to the process of everything's working out on my behalf. And there is ways to get through this day better than what I did yesterday. And that's by thinking in every situation, the best case. What's the best that could happen in this situation? What is the best that can happen? Sometimes we use a term flippantly, hey, what's the worst that could happen? And you try something. No. It's what's the best that could happen? Just changing that in our mind when we approach every situation in our day, whether it is our business, it is our relationship, it is our health. Hey, what's the best that could happen when I go out there and I run that 10K? What's the best that could happen when I just decide to go lift a little weights? What's the best that could happen? And when we start thinking about the best case scenario, we start through neuroplasticities changing our brain to see more best case scenarios. We actually engage and reactivate the creative imagination that has been shut down predominantly by a system. We don't want to succumb to that. We want to be able to get up and make different changes, movement in our day. We want to see things change. We don't want to remain stuck. Nobody should be standing still. We are meant to grow. We are meant to thrive. And negative ideas that just keep repeating itself can never get us any more than negative ideas. We get what we plant. So if we're planting positive things, guess what? We get to reap a harvest of positivity. If we plant negativity, well, we're going to reap that. So why don't we just do more planting of the positive? And it's going to take work, because if we're not used to doing something, everything takes effort. Everything takes intention. Everything takes the decision that I may not like where I'm at, or I have big goals. So how can I just think bigger, think best case scenario about this situation, think that I am going to achieve this, and don't give any room for doubt. Because when we start doubting, that's the negative path, and it's going to lead to more planting of negative seeds that's just going to reap the harvest somewhere down the line. And we don't want that in our life. We want to have really good relationships. We want to have healthy bodies. We want to have work that's meaningful. We want to have businesses that are thriving. We want to be able to use our talents and abilities that God gave us to be able to go out there and benefit all kinds of people, right? Because that's really what our gifts are all about. And when you use your gift and you're helping other people, there is such a feeling of joy, inspiration, excitement that comes from that. I think we're meant to build, we're meant to grow, we're meant to create. And when we do that, and you see how somebody else's life can be benefited from that, that's such a powerful, positive place to live in. So I think that's what was intended for us. We just have to have worthy ideals. And how do we become successful? Well, we got to start planting seeds of positivity. Earl Nightingale, he talked about what is a success. And success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And what does that mean? It means that we are actively working on something that has purpose, that has meaning. It's connected to goals. Goals are for growth. Goals are for helping us become a much better version of ourselves. And when we continue to grow in goals, we see ourselves as somebody that's more confident, as somebody that has more joy, more inspiration, more purpose. We approach our day so differently if we have a goal. That's why I talk about goals all the time on my social media platform, in my book, on these podcasts, is because everybody should have a goal. There should never not be a goal on your calendar, in your notebook, in your journal. There should always be a goal that we are actively working on, because those are meant to grow us into the person that I believe we're all supposed to be. So think about Earl Nightingale's message. You can go and just plug in YouTube the strangest secret recording and listen to it. It's 31 minutes of some of the best advice that you could ever get. And then start thinking, what am I planting that I'm reaping a harvest of? If it's negativity, well, then we can change it. If it's positivity, you see how it works. I'm going to do more of that. Let's plant a huge, massive field of positive thoughts directed towards every single area of our life that we want to improve, and we are going to reap the harvest. It has to work that way. In fact, it is a law. Whatever you put in, you will get back. So let's just do more of that, knowing that our mind is so powerful. We can change our circumstances if we change our thoughts. Our lives are just not to be meant to be lived just stagnant. Stagnation, stuck, that's no fun. Let's get out there and let's create more movements. Let's help more people. Let's create incredible things, find meaningful work, and be passionate about what we're doing. Or even if you have a job and you like your job, but there's other things that you could do on the outside that can improve the lives of other people, get involved in those things. Get something in your life that you're passionate about, that you're excited to get out of your day, because it's totally life-changing when you wake up with purpose. When you wake up with the progressive realization of a worthy ideal and you stick with it, you act on it, it's so good. So I'm going to continue talking about Earl Nightingale's strangest secrets and kind of pull some pieces of it over the next few episodes just to keep working with this life-changing information. It changed my life. I hope it can change your life. But think about, what am I planting? What am I reaping a harvest from? And I'm going to change it if I don't like it. We all have that same ability. So I totally believe in you, in your possibility, your incredible potential. It's so vast. It's so amazing. So let's get out there. Let's use it. And I think exciting things are just around the corner. So that's today's episode. Thanks for hanging with me, and we'll see you on the next episode.